My wife laughed at me in front of everyone. That sharp, cruel kind of laughter that cuts through a room and leaves it hollow. "Maybe you should have taken better care of him," she said, flicking invisible dust from her diamond bracelet. Her sisters joined in, their laughter feeding off each other like scavengers. Even the lawyer looked uneasy, fidgeting with his papers. My wife leaned back in her chair, smug and certain she'd won. I didn't react. I had been waiting for this day far longer than she could imagine. Actually, the lawyer said, and that single word changed everything. 3 years earlier, I had carried her father to bed when his legs gave out for the first time. He'd once been a powerful man, the kind whose voice alone could silence an entire boardroom. But time had stripped him down to fragility, and his family couldn't bear to see it. My wife was too busy with work, her sisters too busy raising families. So they left him with me, the outsider. At first, I helped out of obligation, then because someone had to, and eventually because he looked at me with a kind of understanding that said, "You're the only one left who still sees me." I fed him, changed his sheets, sat beside him through long, quiet nights. Over time, he began to talk about business deals gone wrong, old betrayals, the sharks waiting for his death. One rainy night, as thunder rolled outside, he said, "They'll sell everything the moment I'm gone. You're the only one who still cares." I didn't answer, but I remembered. When he died, the grief in that house was a show. My wife posted teary photos online. Her sisters fought about the funeral seating. I stood beside his casket and listened, until I found the crack in their performance. A voicemail. My wife's voice, dripping with impatience. "Dad's gone. Finally. Maybe now we can sell that useless company and move to Dubai." I played it again. And again, every word burned into me. But I didn't confront her. I just started keeping notes. She thought I'd shut down from grief. Distant, quiet, harmless. That illusion gave me time. I met with her father's attorney, the man who had handled his affairs for decades. He remembered me from those nights at the hospital. Said I reminded him of the man her father once was. Patient and deliberate. Together, we spent months combing through the estate paperwork. At first, everything looked ordinary. Then I found it, a clause buried deep in the corporate filings. It transferred controlling interest of the company to the caretaker responsible for his final estate. She had signed it herself the day we admitted him to palliative care, too impatient to read the fine print. She had handed me his empire with her own pen. I never told her. I let her believe the lie. Let her dream of wealth she didn't own. She mocked me every time we drove past that rundown farmhouse left in the will. "Guess you'll be fixing tractors while I'm running board meetings," she'd sneer. I'd smile, because I already knew how those meetings would end. And now here we were, the reading of the will. Her sisters gasped when their shares were announced, the business divided. My wife looked at me, victorious. Then the lawyer cleared his throat. "Actually," he said, "according to Mr. Harlan's secondary trust amendment, controlling interest of the company transfers to the named executor of his personal estate, Mr. Daniel Reeves." Silence, thick and absolute. My wife blinked, pale and confused. What does that mean?" "It means," the lawyer said carefully, "your husband owns the company. You and your sisters inherit non-voting shares. Essentially, he's your boss." The color drained from her face. Her sisters turned on her in an instant, panic and greed colliding in a storm of designer perfume and accusations. I stayed seated, calm, as the empire she thought was hers fell to pieces in front of everyone. The lawyer slid a folder across the table. "Congratulations, Mr. Reeves. Your father-in-law spoke very highly of your loyalty." I took it without smiling, without a word. My wife's voice trembled. "You planned this." I met her eyes for the first time in months. "No," I said softly. "He did. I just didn't stop him." That night, I drove out to the farmhouse. The lights flickered. The air smelled of earth and rain. It wasn't much old wood, creaking floors, but it was mine. The wind brushed through the fields like a quiet benediction. He had seen through all of them in the end. And he left everything. Not to those who shared his blood, but to the one who stayed when it stopped being convenient. My wife used to say money changes people. She was right. It just shows who they really were all along. As the moonlight hit the deed in my hand, I whispered what I never said at his funeral. Thank you. And as for her, I took care of her, too.